So in evolutionary enlightenment, just to help people to conceive of or to conceptualize these metaphysical absolutes that are really beyond conception, to help us conceive of them, we draw a circle, and we say the totality of everything that exists and doesn't exist exists in this circle. This is just a diagram. It doesn't really mean anything, right? It doesn't really mean anything. So you say, it's in this circle, there's a circle. Within that diagram is everything that exists and doesn't exist. We draw a line down the middle. You say everything on the bottom of the diagram is the unborn, uncreated, timeless, formless ground of all being, like here. That's the bottom half. The top half is the entire creative process that, as far as we know, had a beginning in time, 13.7 or 14 billion years ago, but maybe it actually is also equally eternal. But when you enter into one, like into being, all you become aware, if you go deeply enough into it, you lose awareness of becoming, and all you see is being. And being itself is absolute and non-relative. Being is absolute and non-relative. Being is absolute and non-relative. There is no becoming. There is no becoming. There is no becoming. That's why some teachers or spiritual masters who awaken so deeply to becoming, if you say, "Who are you?" they say, "I don't exist." And there are teachers that actually say that. "Who are you?" And then they say, "I don't exist." And what they're referring to is their identity now is they've become so identified with the unborn, the uncreated, timeless, formless ground of being itself that their sense of identity is that they don't exist, that they've never been born, and that this doesn't really even exist. This is just a dream, right? Because they're really somewhere else. They're there. You follow? So they say, "I don't exist." And that's why they say, they'll refer to the body as just the body. It's not my body. It's just this weird thing that that they don't really have much identification with, right? And some people fake it, but for some people this is actually real. But I want you to know why, and the why is because of what they're identifying with, what they're experiencing directly. So, for example, when the great 20th sage Ramana Maharshi was dying, and he had cancer, and he was dying, and people were grieving that they were going to lose him, he said, "Well, where could I go? I'm not going anywhere." Because from his perspective, what he was so deeply awake to and identified with this timeless, formless, absolute realm of existence, he said, there nothing changes. There's no coming and no going. Right? There's no birth and there's no death. There's no coming and no going. There's no change. So from his perspective, because he was so awake to this deepest part of reality itself, the arising and passing away of the body and of the mind and of the personality of the world is just this, it's a dream. Right? It's a dream. So it's almost like you're looking from the bottom of the ocean, right? You're looking at the bottom of the ocean and this dream appears, but you're at that point you're so much more identified with the timeless, formless, non-relative, absolute nature of reality and of yourself, and you're actually awake to it. It's not just an intellectual understanding. It's what your direct experience is. So everything else just appears to be an illusion. When I interviewed Eckhart Tolle, whatever it was, 15 years ago or 18, I don't remember what it was, I said, because he also he's awake to this ground, this timeless, formless being. He has a deep, profound realization of the deepest part of reality and deepest part of the self. That's his perspective. And so he gave the way he answered me showed me how he sees the world. I said, I don't remember. I think I said, "Is the world real?" And he said, "The world is a ripple on the surface of being." Right? The world, all of manifestation, the entire universe, time, space, and all of creation is just a ripple on the surface of being. So there's infinite being, and there's a little ripple on the surface of being, and that's all of manifestation. That was his perspective, and he was speaking honestly that because he's so identified with being. Remember, the way to understand this is we draw a circle. The bottom half of the circle is being. The top half of the circle is infinite becoming, evolutionary becoming. You follow? So his perspective is he's way down there at the bottom, he's saying. So if you imagine that this is the circle, there's a split in the middle, and here's the surface of the ocean of being, and you go right to the bottom of the ocean of being, and you look to the top. Imagine that you're at the bottom of the ocean, and you're looking at the top. You can see that the entire universe and all of evolution, it would look to you from all the way down there like a little ripple, something. But your experience is so far removed, right? Your experience is that you are so profoundly removed from all of that moving around, right? It's rare for an individual to have such a deep experience of that ground. So you can see then how, from that perspective of being at the bottom of the circle and looking up, that's what it would look like, right? But what the point here is that the whole, both the circle itself, both the bottom half and the top half of the circle, the whole circle is absolute, non-relative, infinite, right? Is one that is not two, right? Then as you enter into, when you go more deeply into the bottom half of the circle, in the way I just described, you lose awareness of the top half of the circle, and what you're awake to is the non-relative or absolute nature of the bottom half of the circle, which is infinite. It's the infinite nature of the ocean, of the ground of being, of the ocean of being itself. You're aware of its infinite nature, right? But the same thing happens when you go in the opposite direction. When you rise up out of timeless, formless being itself, when you emerge out of it, which is what the creative process did. When the universe was created, it was this profound emergence out of timeless, formless, uncreated, infinite being. This creative process ignited or was initiated. Time and space, and all of the creative process emerged. And that entire process started. Now the thing is, if you go up to the surface of that, you go up and up and up to the surface, and then you burst forth. You burst forth as time and space in the whole universe, and potentially multiverses. Maybe there's not one universe, maybe there's many universes, maybe there's billions and billions and countless unimaginable universes that are connected to universes to 5 dimensions and 10 dimensions and 8 dimensions, way beyond what we can even conceive of or imagine now. But we don't have to understand all the physics. But all you need to understand is that a process, a creative process, emerged out of that. And once you burst forth, when you break the surface of timelessness and formlessness, when you break the surface of it, your identity, the quality of your experience changes absolutely. Now, the absolute nature of it doesn't change. Absolute means infinite and eternal, beginningless and endless, infinite and eternal, beginningless and endless, right? Non-relative absolute, infinite and eternal, beginningless and endless. That doesn't shift, because that's the nature of every aspect of this, remember? The two is one. But when the one becomes two, there's an absolute distinction between timeless, formless being and infinite becoming. So when you break the surface of the ocean of timelessness, your experience of your own self and your own nature changes. There's an absolute change, an absolute shift. And now what you experience is the infinite. It's not relative. It's an infinite, beginningless and endless, infinite creative aspiration. It's an infinite. It means endless. There's an infinite creative aspiration to become yourself in and through time, space, and form, and mind.